Loyal compatriots, subscribers, metalheads, one and all, thanks for joining me. Welcome to my new camera. I don't know how this is going to look, but we're winging it. We're doing it. This is going to be awesome. This is a collection update that you have signed up to watching. Hopefully I don't bore you to tears. Let's talk about some things I've gotten in, what's been going on, and some more stuff about my collection. We're going to be listening to, man, this is like distractingly good. It's one of those things I just put on and just, wow, I forgot how great this is. Omen, Warning of Danger. This is straight up old man metal. JD Kimball, you are sorely, sorely missed. I apologize if anything is kind of off in this video because I don't know what it's going to look like when I do this. Or what have you. I was just getting really sick of my cell phone having audio sync issues and just all kinds of fucking issues with doing video. So I found this camera really cheap. It's like a GoPro knockoff. It was 40 bucks and I don't know, so far I'm really liking it. But I mainly got it for doing these videos for you guys, so we'll see how this turns out. Anyway, Omen, Warning of Danger, great American heavy fucking metal, the way it should be done. The only CD I've gotten in recently, I've been hella fucking busy. We won't get into that. This is a band, Der Weg einer Freiheit, and the album is called Une Scylla. I'm really surprised that this band didn't take off like a fucking rocket when this album came out in 2014, 13, somewhere around there. Just really innovative, hyper speed German black metal. A lot of tension in their melodies and their harmonies. It's just really fucking evil sounding. Their songwriting is very, very watertight. This is a great record. Please check it out. Do yourself a favor. I do think one of the reasons they didn't take off quite as much is the album that they did after this. I could only really listen to about half of it without turning it off. Maybe I'll pick it up someday. But this album is a fucking banger, a smoker, a midnight toker, whatever. It's really fucking good. Also got in a VCLT from my man Pat at Ground Zero Salem. One of my favorite YouTube channels. Anytime he uploads, I have to stop what I'm doing and watch it. It's seriously, he's doing a great job of making us all look like fucking idiots. And pretty soon, in about a year or so, you'll be watching him instead of me, hopefully. So, Pat had a contest for his 300 subscribers mark, which is sad. 300 is great, but I mean, Pat deserves 3,000 subscribers for the content, the intellectual content that he's offering to you guys. Check him out. Subscribe. Pat sent me a VCLT gift of this band called Black Earth, a cryptic howl of morbid truth. I know nothing of this band. I've never heard of this album. I have heard of this label, Graceless Recordings. Sadly, it's on that format that I'm not a huge fan of, cassette. We'll get into that a little bit later, however. Next, so the contest was where you could sign up and win a mixtape made by Pat. And the man knows his shit, so a mixtape from Pat is a gold mine of stuff that's great that you might not know about. So he gave away a mixtape to his someone who won the contest, and also to a couple of his tight, ham-fisted buddies. And I am pleased to call myself one of them. So, little tape art there. He put together a interesting track list here. This is just so awesome. And a kind of just a J card there. So just a bunch of goodies that Pat loves. It's nice to have a relic that'll go in my collection. I'm not going to do this right now. To remind me of Pat. So that brings us to cassettes. Okay, another cassette I got in, Cult of Death. The hell is this called? Doomed by the Witch. More or less just got this because I want to fill out my Cult of Death collection, one of my favorite bands. And this is the last thing they put out. And I don't think I've covered this in my collection updates. It's one of the things I keep forgetting to talk about in my collection updates. So Nuclear War now put this out. Now that I'm doing this, I feel like I did cover this, but whatever. Doomed by the Witch, Cult of Death, great fucking band, and I haven't even had a chance to play it because cassettes are so inconvenient for me to play. Until a week or so ago, the only tape player I had was right over there. And when I'm down here in this room, I don't really do much other than organize my CDs, LPs, clean up my records a little bit. I'll throw on an LP. That's really like the treat of being down here, is being able to throw on an LP. So it's just kind of a hassle in that way because there's really nothing down here but records. I don't honestly just sit down here and listen to records and twiddle my thumbs or anything. I am I guess I probably have ADD, something like that. I'm just kind of, I don't just like to sit still and do nothing. I've got to be doing something. I love putting on a record while I'm doing something. That's who I am. So there's nothing to do down here while I'm putting on records. And that should change, and that's something I should change about this room in the future, which is kind of happening. However, tapes just are not convenient. I haven't had a tape player in my car for a couple of years now. I've been loving having CDs in my car, but okay. So I decided I need tape players in my fucking life. I went nuts thrifting, looking at thrift shops for a tape player, and it was fucking weird. I go thrifting all the time, probably several times a week. I go just hitting the market. There's all kinds of thrift shops along this highway here to hit up so conveniently. But for some reason, I just thought, where are all the fucking tape players? So anyways, I was out of town the other day, and we needed a tape player. So I drove all over town and found this god-awful sack of shit. They had 3 cassette players for sale. 2 of them said they worked. I plugged those in, and they didn't work. This one said that the tape player didn't work on the side. I plugged it in, and I got it to work. I had to rip the door off to even get a tape in it, and it only plays out of one speaker, but I still bought it for $5. Long story, I won't get into it, but I now have a tape player. I'll probably be able to fix that up, get it to play out of both speakers, and maybe throw it in the garage. I also picked this son of a bitch up. I just thought, man, I'm having such a hard time finding tape players. I'm just going to buy any fucking tape player that I find. This was $1 at a thrift store. It's in perfect condition. Maybe it'll come in handy to play cassettes out of. It's got an audio jack. I can probably just pump it through the speakers there. It's in great condition. It's also a recorder, so if I wanted to make a necrotic black metal demo in a couple of years, I can do that. And then a friend of mine was digging around in his garage or something, and he came up with this and this. And he's still looking for a Walkman, which ultimately that's really what I want. It's just a Walkman that's not these big ass things. So I've come up with 4 fucking tape players in the last week, and I still hate tapes. So I've also got a new tape case for my tapes, but whatever. Tapes still fucking suck. Let's get on to some CDs. Alphabetically, where we were at last was Death. So, continuing on from Death, we've got a couple of CDs. And in falling in line with trying to talk about fewer albums, but more elongated things about these albums, I've chosen 8 CDs. So, we have Debauchery, Dead Scream Symphony. This is a promo version of an album. I want to say this is pretty much like black thrash and reminds me of Flagellator quite a bit, honestly. I don't listen to this very much at all. It came out on Bloodfire Death, by the way. There is that. I want to say this band is from Germany, and this is probably about 15 or 16 years old. So, I don't know. I can't really offer much opinion on this album, but it was a promo I got that I should listen to more often. This, however, is Decameron's My Shadow. This is a great fucking album that No Fashion put out, and I'm going to guess... educated guess, I'm going to say this came out in 1998 or so. I kind of always look at this as Dissection's little brother, in a way. One of the reasons is that the drummer who played on this is Tobias Kjellgren. Is that right? Is that his name? Tobias would go on to replace Ole Omen in Dissection after he left on the drums. Ole Omen, one of my favorite fucking drummers. His performance on Storm of the Lightsbane is something that makes my jaw just drop every single time. Anyway, this is not Ole Omen. He replaced him. And I kind of think he was a little bit plotty, and he kind of slowed. I feel like Dissection slowed down their songs in order for Tobias Kjellgren to be able to play those songs. There's the live album that Nuclear Blast put out posthumously a couple of years ago. I can't remember what it's called. I have it back there, but the songs are a lot slower. There's a lot less intensity to the songs. But this album has great fucking riffs. One of the songs on here, My Shadow, is a song that you will probably recognize from Dissection's The Past is Alive album, because that contained a song from a band called Satanized, which John Notveit started with members of this band. So John Notveit and one or two of these guys broke off in the early 90s. John started Dissection, and these guys started Decameron. However, they only put out this album. This album has amazing vocals. I really have always loved just the fucking sheer anger apparent in this album vocally. Riff-wise, it's super melodic. The drumming is pretty complex. Like I said, pretty much akin to anything Swedish like Dissection. But strong point would be vocals for sure. And it's kind of nice and technical. You could also kind of compare it to like At the Gates. I imagine they were from Stockholm. Don't quote me on that, but put it on the internet for posterity. Next, we've got Deceased. Now, this was a recent purchase, and I actually covered this in a video when I first got it. Deceased, Supernatural Addiction, and I bought this mainly because Eli, one of my other favorite YouTubers, great hymn, Dark Hymns from the Dark Old North. Your name is too long, buddy. I got this because he called this one of the best post-2000 death metal albums, and I just thought, I can't go on any further without having heard this. Put it on, and I don't know if I can see this as a death metal album or band for that matter, and I just I can't really put my finger on what it is that doesn't resonate with me. I would say it's too traditional of a heavy metal album, but I'm listening to Omen's Warning of Danger. So, I mean, this album just, I guess what I could say about this band, and I also have their Behind the Mourner's Veil album. I don't listen to this very often either, but it seems like, okay, Warning of Danger, let's take this as an example, by Omen. It has a sort of passiveness to it. It has a pensive restraint to it that allows for the song structure, the brilliantly written songs, to breathe and to exist as a heavy metal traditional song should. These songs on these albums in this band, I feel like they take the best parts of 5 to 7 great heavy metal songs, speed them up 2 times, and it just kind of comes across to me anyways as a jumbled mess, too hurried, a little bit too uncohesive, and it just doesn't click for me for some reason. Perhaps, like I've been saying, it's one of those things that I can put on in a couple of years and it's just going to click and work. I've got it in my collection, waiting for that day to come, but that's just kind of what I've always felt about Deceased. King Fowley plays in another band called October 31, and I love it. That's the way it should be, if you ask me. So, I don't know. I've just been always kind of on the fence about Deceased, sadly. However, this album, December Wolves, Completely Dehumanized, is a fucking East Coast rager. This is pre-Trap Them, a band I never really got into. These guys started out as being kind of like pretty much a Nordic black metal band. Their Till 10 Years album, I don't have a copy of that, but just for curiosity's sake, I wouldn't mind having a copy of that. Artwork on this album is really terrible, but the riffs on this album, the sheer, just brutal anger on this album is seething with fucking hatred. I love bouncing off the walls and putting this on. To me, just this is a perfect culmination of taking thrash riffs, adding the anger of a hardcore punk kind of band, and just the intensity of a death metal band, and just merging that all into a powerful fucking violent record with really terrible artwork. I feel like if this would have had better promotion behind it and a better, more memorable album cover, this would be a classic we would be talking about all the time for years to come. This came out originally in 2000, I would guess, and it's a banger. If you haven't heard Completely Dehumanized by December Wolves, you're doing yourself a disservice. Check this album out in the link below for certain. If there's any album out of this pile that you check out today, make it that one. This is the follow-up to that album. The drummer left after Completely Dehumanized, and they did Blasterpiece Theater. I don't listen to this album very often. They use the drum machine on this album, and it's not very good. They do To Kill Again, which is a song from the last album. I don't know why you would redo a song without a drummer. This came across to me as just kind of hurried, disjointed, maybe just to satisfy like a label contract or whatever. I should probably put this on again and just kind of refamiliarize myself with it. Came out on Wicked World a couple years after Completely Dehumanized did, but yeah, it's an East Coast band, and I don't know. I guess you could probably say it's a good thing they broke up to make way for Trap Them to form. Next, we've got a band called Decoria, or Decoria. Not really sure, but this band is from Sweden. And this is one of the more unique bands in my collection. This is the album Wisdom Floats, which it sure does, guys. It sure does. And this album is called Fall Dark Waters. This is the debut, Fall Dark Waters. This is a really, really fascinating blend of doom metal and kind of traditional metal, I guess I would say. Maybe like progressive doom metal. Really, really strange. And the reason this is so strange and amateurish is that these, like, the members of this band, as far as I know, in 1996 were about 15 and 14, maybe even 13 years old. That's what I've heard anyways. Maybe that's just when the songs were written and not when this album was recorded. But yeah, really strange album. I've managed to pick these both up in used bins throughout the years. This one I picked up just a couple of years ago in a used bin for $6. It was a really strange thing to find. This came out on Metal Blade in 96, and Wisdom Floats came out in 95. So actually this is the debut, I'm sorry. So this is the one that they were 13, 15 years old when they wrote it. But yeah, like, these albums don't really differ from one another all that much. It really makes sense hearing the progression from one to the next. But yeah, interesting band if you're looking for something very, very unique and strangely amateurish in a way that it seems like they're kind of coming up with something new that no one ever really took off of. I would maybe compare this to Finland's Unholy a little bit. If that perks your interest, it should. Yeah, I don't put this on very often, but the most recent one, Wisdom Floats, I put it on for about 5 or 6 spins in a row. Really, really good stuff. So I think that does it for now. I hope the new video camera is to your liking and my liking as well. So that's that. We'll tune in next time. We'll see you next time. Have a good everything. Bye-bye.